All right. Good evening. This is Council Rock School District Finance Committee meeting this evening. We have several things on our agenda. We're doing a presentation of the 18-19 budget. We're doing quarterly investment activities, and then we have 3 items that would go to board votes on Thursday night. So we're going to start our meetings as become our practice by introducing ourselves around the table. So I'm Wendy Thomas, and I am Finance Chair.
Bob Reinhardt, Director of Business Administration.
Rick Hargis, Information Systems.
Denise Brooks, School Board. Marion McKee, School Board.
Matt Frederickson, IT Director.
Ed Tate, School Board.
Robert Frazier, Superintendent.
Jerry Grubb, School Director.
Just for public record, the people who are at the end.
You choose not to, that's fine.
Up to you.
Shout it out.
Again.
Michelle Christian in my capacity as a parent and a citizen of North Kansas Township.
Okay, we're gonna change the order on the agenda because we have guests and we're gonna take their item first. And so we're gonna move to the timekeeping system, which is under item 3A.
Okay, we've already discussed what we're going to go over tonight. Okay. Timekeeping system, we remember that a few months ago, maybe a little more than a few months ago, we selected Frontline to be the company that was going to integrate with our accounting system for a timekeeping system, an automated timekeeping system. Back in January, we did an RFP process. 4 companies were considered. We interviewed them, and at the time we selected Frontline. They are also the company that has ASOP, which is our substitute service. They had low pricing, and they committed that they could integrate with our accounting system at the time. On the first meeting we had with Frontline, I believe that we started to learn that there was not the interface that we believed there was in the interface. Frontline did admit that they did say that it was available and could happen, and it really wasn't available. They couldn't give us a timeline on when it could become available. We discussed this with Frontline, and they agreed that there would be no financial commitment if we walked away because they could not support the way they originally thought it was. Rick is here, and Rick is the person that, Jerry, can talk in technical terms with you when it comes to the interface. But that is really the reason behind it. Go ahead. Time Clock Plus was another vendor that we was in the selection process. A lot of school districts in the county use them, and we believe that they are much better to interface with their accounting system. We like to change what we're doing now with that. You can see all the other items that they have that we could discuss if we like, but that is really what we'd like to recommend to change. You will see that the prices are different. Time Clock Plus one-time setup we have $19,966, and a yearly license is a little more expensive than what we were going to do with Frontline. These are both in the current year budget, and the $34,200 is in the budget we'll be discussing for next year also already. It is a little more expensive, but we do not believe Frontline can provide the services or the interface that is necessary right now. That was our first choice, but this is our recommended choice at this point.
He's waiting for you.
Yeah, because I'm looking at this, and the questions I have are on litigation. and would go to executive session with regard to frontline.
We can do that if you want to go to executive session now, or
No, I mean council.
Okay.
This is potential litigation that the council needs to advise. I'm not sure if litigation will hold up or not, but I'm just, over the course of 2 years, it's 54,000 versus 27,000. And we, entered into agreement. I'm not an attorney, that's why I got this. But we entered into agreement with them that they were either error or made a misrepresentation, and we relied on.
I understand your position. What I'd like to do, if you don't mind, if I can keep this on the agenda for Thursday night, we can go to executive session before we vote on it. Is that be okay with everybody?
From my,
Yes.
if what was the price of this other ones down the road, there were more than two providers. And did we explore, how many other providers were there at the time? And did we explore those?
I'd have to look, and I don't remember their fees. I know one was Kronos, right, which I will tell you is much more than this. And I don't
There's a
remember.
lot of hardware involved with it too.
I'm looking at total cost of ownership
Yeah.
over some period, 3 to 5 years, total cost of ownership, what it means to us, and what the differentiation is, because I don't know, the functionality is there over 2 years, is there $27,000 worth of improved functionality over this? I'm not saying versus that one, and they can't deliver it, that's a different issue that we talk about. But what's the next one? I don't know the difference. So I need to, it's great that they have good references. I mean, if I'm out of turn, I got a bunch of board members, if they have great references, good. But is their functionality differentiated worth any incremental cost? They may be the cheapest versus Kronos. Good. I don't know the other one.
I have experience with Kronos, very good, robust system, but it's expensive, and we don't need all the bells and whistles that Kronos has. This one, when I look at it, I believe they have a lot of bells and whistles also that I'm not sure we're going to need. So what we'll do is we'll do some more financial analysis of the 3 other vendors so you can see the pricing of it. And I will send the agreements to Rob so he's available.
Joanne is going over Rob. Rob is on assignment. But if you would send it to Joanne, let her know and make sure she has a contract for Frontline. So I'm sorry, not Frontline.
No.
Let her have the contract for Frontline too, so she can make sure.
And I will work on that tomorrow, make sure it gets there.
I don't want to be out of turn. Anybody, board members? Okay.
I'm fine with it.
Maybe you could show us the original bid. Hey, you usually line them up. I think if you just show us that, you're saying these were the next least expensive people.
I believe they were.
If they work, that's what I'm looking for. If
You want to?
That's why I see a copy of the bid sheet that we usually get that shows us.
We'll put it together.
Okay,
Okay?
sounds good. Any
Okay.
other questions? They're going to, okay. All right.
you were our guest.
Yeah.
Expect more.
Okay, and this is your favorite cash management update for actually December 31st. We either had cancellations or the agenda was too long for him to come, and he could not make it today, so Kevin has given me this for you guys to look at with me, and I'm going to go over this very briefly. Go ahead. If you look at the yield curve, which you will see 2018 is the current yield curve. 2017, at the beginning of the year, you can see how low the yields were, and you can see there, and look at the spread between the green and the tan, and you'll see that interest rates, long-term interest rates are going up quite a bit. And most of the time, when interest rates are going up like that, you will see that the bond market, the value of your bonds are going down. If you look at any 5-year bonds, 10-year bonds, the bond market is going, it's tanking, as they would say. But understand that our bonds, our maturities are so short that it's not having a great effect on it. And all our securities are booked to hold until they mature. So you'll see this, and although you'll read about the bond market and all that, think of us as having a very short portfolio. Okay. It's also showing you here where we sit compared to other portfolios. If you look at our portfolio, which is the orange, there, there, and there's, I can see the orange one there. But what it's showing you is when you're comparing us to other similar portfolios, we are doing very well in comparison to the other portfolios that you'll see. There's different benchmarks. Actually, Pliget's is up there, the 3-year Treasury bill is up there. So we are doing relatively good, so there shouldn't be real concern about our performance. Go ahead. If you look at it, you will see these are all our bonds. Most of them are maturity dates in thousands. This is, most of our maturities are maturing in 18, some in 19, some in 20. There isn't any beyond there. That is showing you how short our maturities are. Okay? You'll see we at the time had $105 million invested in these marketable securities. Go ahead. Here's our list of securities with the coupons, maturity dates, and you'll see that the that is the market value, which is higher than the cost basis. To show you at the time, this was a month and a half ago, so these market values could have gone down in some of them because interest rates have spiked up since then. But it is showing our portfolio is fine, and you can see what it's in. It's all agencies or treasuries. Okay. You get a report on this every board meeting too. So every month you see this. Okay. This is the collateral that is supporting our public funds in our in TD Bank, and it's showing you that it is all these credit card receivables as it has been before. I believe interest rates on this have gone up a little, and we are talking to them about increasing our interest rate in our accounts with TD Bank also. So this is only the collateral supporting our money. This isn't the amount of money. It's just everything over FDIC is being supported by these assets.
Are they obligated to collateral like this at 102%? Is that for 104%?
You have to have market value, depending on what type of asset it is under Act 72, different percentages of par.
I thought it was in excess of our.
It's got to be in excess of our deposits, but they can value the different type of assets based on par to get to the 102%.
Okay.
I could show it to you. It really doesn't have to do with market value where you think it should, but it's really percent of par.
Don't go nuts. Nobody else is.
Okay. And this is the disclosures from the company. Go ahead. Okay, I'm going to stand up for this one. Every board member should have a budget book. It's a budget book for every board member. Okay. This is the first draft of our 2018-19 budget. There's also copies here for the public if anyone wants to look at it. We need to keep it here if you'd like to look at it. This is going to be our first shot at just looking at what's going on in this year's budget and what we're trying to do and the causes for the increases and changes. So, major overall overview of the budget, revenue expenditure use of fund balance, we'll go over that. I'm going to talk to you about the revenues and the expenditures. As I go through this, I hope to have references by page number of what I'm talking about, because I really would like you to be able to be comfortable to say, oh, Bob's talking about student transportation. Oh, that's on page 75. So that you start understanding and using the book as you get questions or you're researching things. So ask questions as we go. I hope to have this done in a half an hour or something such as that. So let's go to the next one. Okay, here's where we look at it. And if you go to page F2, please everyone go to F2.
What?
Three. That's it.
No, there's
F2.
It's F2.
F2 and F3. Flip back. F2, it's not numbered.
Like page 20.
It's not numbered the way.
It's near the front.
You got it? It should be the same, except I realize that, there are heading issues here. You'll see the headings right on the book, and here this should be 17, 18, and that should be 16, 17, and 1. So our actual 2014-15 actuals is where we ended up. Our fund balance was down $4.5 million. We can talk all about why that happened. In 2015-16, our fund balance went down $940,000. This current year, we are budgeting a deficit of $4.2 million. As you all know, that generally each year you will see that our revenues are generally 1% to 1.5% higher than the budgeted revenues. Fortunately, that's doesn't mean it's going to be that way all the time, but I really hope it is. And at the same time, expenditures have been below the budgeted expenditures by 1 or 2%, and that usually makes up the $4.2 million. So we're in a comfortable zone with this year's budget. Although we may move money, we're going to cap the reserve and keep our summer projects going on. Let's look at 2018-19. This is with a 2.4% tax increase in real estate taxes or property taxes. Our revenues are up to $235, almost $236 million. Our expenditures are at $240,900,000, so it's almost $241 million. And right now we're at a deficit of almost $5 million if we had the budget passed it this way. And that's a little bit outside of my comfort zone in looking at a budget that way, but we're very early on. So you understand how you see that and you see what financial condition we're in right now as we look at this. Now we're going to get into the detail. Now if you go to page F3, you're going to see our list of revenues in a much more detailed area. Current real estate taxes are up with the tax increase by $4.8 million. Earned income taxes, and when I want to spend some time on this, is up $500,000. So I have it budget-wise, $16.5 million plus $5 million is now in that column. You'll see it's at $17 million. Does everyone see that? You see that, Chair?
Don't worry about it.
What I want to do is make sure you see, if you go to the 2016-17 actual, you see that we got almost $18.4 million. And you may say to me, well, Bob, you're leaving all this money on the table. Why aren't you going up to $18 million even in our budget? Let's go back to the year previous to the $18.4 million. $16.4 million is where we were at the year before. We had a huge growth in earned income that is not completely explainable to me to say, are we going to maintain that 11% increase from that year to the current year? And with EIP, our big receipts don't come in until March, April, and May. And if you look at it now, Chloe's done some good analysis for me, and she's saying to me, Bob, I'm not sure we're gonna get 17 million this year. But maybe 30% of our revenues come in so far, so we're waiting for 70% of it. And if you remember, 2 years ago, when I kept saying, I'm really worried about VIP, and then in the first week of June, we got this big revenue coming in that cleared it away, my problem. So it's very difficult to budget. And if you look at the way we budget, I would want to budget conservatively and not put it in there because I worry about it every day that my luck's going to run out and that 1% higher revenues than expenditures is going to become 1% lower revenues. And that could be a very difficult situation to be in. Realty transfer taxes. Everyone has seen what it's done to our enrollment. Houses are turning over, and every transaction we're getting 0.5% of the cost of that home that's changing hands. So that is going up.
Well, when you look at the real estate tax, it's gone up $5 million.
Yes.
Because it's either got to be commercial or new residential. What am I seeing it as?
I don't know that it's commercial. What I understood it to be is residential, but I'm going to show you those numbers and see what's happening. So you're going to see that a little down the road. Basic education increased $300,000. A lot of that is what we're getting this year that we weren't sure we were going to get.
You didn't assume any additional increase.
A little increase, but not much. It's maybe $90,000 or something like that altogether. It's not a huge number. Share of Social Security has gone up. That's because our salaries have gone up, and the state contributes 1/2 of what we pay in Social Security. So that is the amount there. State share of employer retirement contribution increased to $1 million. And guess what? That's low since I've been here. But we are finally starting to level out some, although it's still going to go up some. Went from 32.57% to 33.43%. So that is the increase this year. And it's going from 32.57% to 33.43%. Right? Okay. And the federal revenues, which you know isn't a great revenue source for the district, we've reduced it by $13,000. As you know, there's a lot of domestic programs that are being reduced, and although that isn't a significant amount, that's what we've done with residents. Okay, now Jerry, this is where we're looking at the real estate taxes. So if you look, last year we had $1,280,000,000 in assessed value. The assessed value is the value that the county puts on the value of a property. Right now, I think it's about 11% of the actual value of the property. But again, we haven't had a reassessment since 1972, so those are very uneven when you look at the percentages. You will see that about $10 million or 0.8%. That is a significant amount for us to raise. I think that's the highest it's been. The last 2 years it's been high. I think it's 0.77 last year, but it's 0.8. So with us outraising taxes at all, we would have $1.2 million of additional revenue just because the assessed value went up. You understand that? Without increasing the tax rate. So when you look back at that 4.8 million, 1.2 million of that is because of the assessed value going up.
Let's view it in context, which is, as you said, we don't reassess in this county since 1972. I believe commercial property can be reassessed outside of that sequence, so that's that great. Because otherwise, is that 10 million? It's 10 million. It's $10 million it's actually $110 million.
Yes.
It's actually $90 million, $100 million of real property because of the assessed value.
Yeah.
That stuff comes with people in it.
Yes.
And some of those people are under 18, okay, so it's not, that 1.2, it sounds great, but there's a component of that.
Yeah. If it's commercial property, like you said, it's great because no one's coming with it. It's just taxes that can support the program. If there are children coming with it, each child may cost us $18,000 and we're getting $4,000 per home. So that's the,
Right.
yes. So does everyone understand the calculation here? And those are the differences there? Okay. Okay. The budget document itself is organized in a functional basis, meaning to say how the money is being spent is how it's organized. That is, if it's regular instruction, all your salaries and supplies and equipment and all that is under regular instruction. If it is library services, it's in library services and broken down against salary, benefits, and all your other costs are in library services. If it's in the principal's office, it's all the principal's office's salaries and everything. This is broken down very differently. This is by object. So total salaries, you have the whole budget, so the whole 100 and some pages of salaries come up to $111 million. Same thing with healthcare, and you can go all through it. You can see where retirement went up from 35 million to 37 million. This is not on the page there. That's organized totally different than this.
Yeah.
This is for me to show you what areas of the budget went up. Right now, this is so disaggregated, you really can't see it. This is in total, I'm trying to show you this. So our salaries went up $3.2 million, 2.93%. I will tell you that you may say, we're in a year of negotiations. Where has this come from? Understand that this year, the teachers got a step movement, the 13th pay of the year. So in the current year budget, for half the year, we paid them at a lower salary. The second half of the year, we paid them at a higher salary. Next year, 2018-19, without anything happening, we're paying them at the higher salary for 12 months. So that is in this step movement or lateral movement where teachers get additional education credits. That's also included in this. And the area that you should be aware of, we're having a significant movement into the Master's 45 column. Beginning of the contract, we have about 20 people in that column. Right now, the number I have is 403 people in that column. So there's significant movement over there, and that has an inflationary effect on the salaries. This was a big year for us where, with Richboro Middle School closing, we were having some staff reductions. Well, that staff reduction now has been mitigated by staff increases, areas that we need to increase, special ed, things like that. You're going to get a much more detailed explanation next month with Christine when she comes in and goes over all the personnel numbers there. Okay?
Excuse me, when you say increase, are we refilling positions that we had used in prior years, or those new positions?
These, we are not refilling prior positions. These are all new positions. So for instance, just based on our special education numbers, we see a need right now for 4 additional special education teachers, as well as 4 special education teaching assistants.
Okay. Thanks.
Welcome.
I like healthcare. A lot of that, we had a very good year in healthcare for the second year straight. If you remember, we weren't having good years for a while, but now this is the second year straight. So that's a relatively small amount. And then This is a component of higher salaries and the higher contribution rate. 300, 900 objects, I'm going to talk about that at length to tell you exactly why we went up by $1.6 million. First one, let's go to F9. We went up $600,000, and I have some more slides on this at the end. But, you know, been talking about planning for future renovations, and this being a year where, with staff reductions, we'd have funds available to be able to put into debt service without increasing taxes. I'm going to go over a lot more detail about that, but originally I wanted $1 million in there, if you remember, and this is where we are currently. And that'll be something that we're going to have to evaluate as we go through the rest of the budget process, because that could be an area that we have to further reduce. Just providing structural increases, 362,000 if you want to go to F43. And you're going to see that it shows up as $394,000, so it doesn't include a number that I am saying. Do you understand why? The 900 category does not include the changes in salaries and benefits. So if you add the other numbers together, it'll come up with 362. You see that?
Say that again.
If you look at the changes on page F43, it says it went up $394,000.
Right.
That includes the changes to the salaries and benefits.
Yep.
This number only includes the objects 300 to 900. It doesn't include that. Okay. And Dr. Elliott will be talking to you, I think, at the next academic standards meeting and explaining the textbook adoptions and everything on how that money is being spent. And that's where you're going to see that. Okay. Student transportation, let's go to that page, F93, you're going to see what's really our contracts. You're going to see that the contract, the increase in our contract with first student went up $168,770, an increase of 1.72%. And then you'll see that we had the DIU contract for $80,000, and those are the two areas. Middle Bucks Institute of Technology, let's go to F53.
On the student transportation?
Yes.
That's by contract. That's in the contract.
Yes.
So there's still, unlikely as it is, the potential they could give some of that. Unlikely if they're not cooperating to get there, but we could always inquire.
I could talk to you about some initiatives we've put together with them, that we're supposed to meet with them. I'd like to talk to you.
With the potential of reducing this, is that the hope? Or getting more?
Yes, and it all has to do with the average life of the buses. And I can talk to you and explain it to you.
State compensation based on the age of the buses.
Well, our agreement says the buses have to be on average 6 years old. Every one of our buses are brand new.
Right.
So year 7, what are they going to do? Change out half of our fleet? So we are looking to negotiate something with them. These buses are fine where we are. So that's why and I got to tell you, Andy, that started this whole thing, yes.
And those are propane buses, so there's
Yeah.
a maintenance perspective in terms of operating
Yeah.
features are much.
There's not much oil in them, there's.
Exactly.
Yes.
So did that-
So just so you know that there are, wheels are turning with.
Let's hope for students.
Yeah, the wheels on the bus.
Well, I gotta tell you,
The wheels on the bus go round.
Well, you know what happened with.
I berated them as much as possible.
Did that change to propane yield us the kind of savings we thought it would?
Yes, especially since we got the excise tax that I was never expecting. In fact, it just got renewed again, so that we saved an additional $162,000 a year that we're getting. Our miles per gallon is not as great, but if you look at the differential between diesel and what we're paying, I think we're paying $1.10 right now for propane, plus we're getting 50 cents a gallon back. You can see the cost difference that I'm very happy with what we've done. Do I wish first student didn't go up with their contract? I could, they're doing the same type of thing.
Not that.
On the positive side of that as well, those buses, we had degree days that were low.
Right.
Those buses start instantly because they're propane. The diesel, they would have had to run them for 20 minutes before they could move them. So it's quite a savings that way too.
I am pleased with it. Okay, let's go to page 53, 52. Because these numbers don't give you the context of the increase. But I want you to see that our increase is 7.54% for the vote tech. That though, if you look at the ADMs, and Dr. Frazier and I went over this today, if you look at the average ADMs, Central Bucks went down from last year, Centennial went down from last year's, ours went up from last year's, and New Hope Soulberry went up a little from last year. So we're paying a higher percent of the operating costs of the VOTEC because our enrollment is going up.
And for those people following along, ADM has to do with average daily matriculation or something like membership. How many students are there each day?
Yes. So it isn't just because their budget's going up that high, it's because we're paying a higher percent.
Get more kids though.
Yes, yes. And other districts are dropping some. And that's
Interesting.
If theirs were going up too, it wouldn't be as significant. But theirs are going down, ours are going up. So it's got a duplication there. Educational priorities is, and you can look at it F75, and Susan can talk more about that also. She and I went over the numbers, and a lot of this has to do with professional learning communities and the costs associated with that, and diversity training. So that's the funds that are there. If you remember, we have a committed fund balance, that those monies are coming right from that committed fund balance, and it's about $2.6 million. So that's where the funds come for that. Okay, any questions?
That 2.6 was the proceeds from,
That was just where,
that was a one-time deal, wasn't it?
yes, we had extra,
With
I shouldn't say we had extra
Lockheed
money.
money,
We had available funds, and there was a feeling that we're putting everything towards capital.
It was Lockheed money, wasn't it? It was one-time money that came to us.
The tax. The tax money.
It was a settlement of Lockheed that we put
Yes.
aside for educational special tasks.
Okay? Why must we do this? We need to, there's a double period there, and Dr. Frazier caught that, and I never changed it. Anyway, it's still there. We want to try to keep the program where it is, and I'm going to go over the numbers of the staff that we cut over time and all that. So we need to maintain our program or enhance our program somewhere. Slow the reduction of our existing fund balance. You saw that our fund balance has gone down over the last couple of years. I expect that it's still going to go down some, but we need to make sure it doesn't go down at a quick pace. Continue funding the annual capital expenditures of the district at $3 million annually. What I'm telling you is, I know if you have Doug here, he'd say $5 million, please. And this, I think, would only get us to $3 million. So we're not even enhancing that in my mind. Begin to financially prepare for needed renovations at the remaining elementary schools. We have a list. Is it 4 more elementary schools we have to do? I think it's 4 more elementary schools we have to do. And where we are currently does not have enough debt service to be able to do the other 4 elementary schools. And I will tell you, this is the same thing I put in last year. Elimination of property taxes is coming up again. And as we talked about our numbers, and you see what's funding this budget right now is the increase in property taxes. If we didn't have the increase that we have in there, we'd have a $5 million war issue. And if this property tax gets eliminated and the state pays us based on the amount of revenue they receive from the additional state income tax and the sales tax, I don't believe we're going to be in a good position because I do not believe it increase it at this rate. And with their budget deficit, which it looks like this year they're kicking the can down the road, you see that it's an election year, I guess they say, so they're kicking it down the road. So we won't hear about the deficit until next year, and you're going to find out that it's just as big or bigger than it was. So that's why those are my reasons why I believe that this needs to be at 2.4% tax. Okay. Here's our history. I'm not going to go over it all, but this is where our fund balance was, and you can see out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 3 of the years our fund balance has gone down, and you will see that it's going down further and further. And although you think 24 million sounds like a lot, if it's in one of our bank accounts, it would be a lot of money. It's in a district that's expenditures this year almost $242 million. That money would last us for just over 2 months. Something would happen with our revenue sources. It's not a huge number when you're looking at where we are and the uncertainties. I just want to show you here, we're 2011-12, and you'll see a little later that we had cut positions. 0% of tax increase, 1.7, 1.3, 0.61, 0.25, and then we went the Act 1 maxes the last 2 years. And I believe that's where we need to be this year. Those are for your notes, and I forgot to hand them out to the board. But for your reference, I put it with your budget, and you can reference these materials as we go and look at this. Just make sure one good or help you before good. Okay. This is where I am with the.
Okay, next question.
Okay.
So Robert,
Yes.
we have a $5 million, even with the tax increase, we have a $5 million deficit. So are you going to be putting together suggestions on how we reduce it?
Yes. Yeah, we're not comfortable with that figure. So this is really just the first look at this. We want to get down into that, certainly no more than 4.5 million, preferably even lower. So Bob and I had that conversation today about trying to find those areas of reduction.
So is that the April finance meeting? What's the timing? I don't recall.
April finance meeting involves going over our staffing. It involves talking about the preliminary budget, which I would think that we would need to come down and say, this is where we are today. Will the board support where we are? And understand that we have $600,000 in additional debt service, which I'm going to be talking about right now. That's probably the easiest place for just to take it out and let it ride, but I want to show you the implications of taking it out. You know that before I said, as we move forward, I wanted to put $1 million in there to be able to start funding the other 4 elementary schools that need to be renovated. We couldn't afford this in this budget. I couldn't put another $400,000 in there that would have been taken out anyway by the end. But This is just long-range planning. There's a lot of reasons this year I wanted to do it. And a lot of it had to do with Fritz Mill closing and us being able to make some staffing reductions and all of that. But
So this board acts every year, but I just want to remind that we also want to see what happens if we go to no tax increase. We went through that last year, if you recall. So it's 5 million with 2.4% tax increase. So my best estimate is another 1.5 million, almost 2 million, if we went to zero, or somewhere in the middle there. So I know that you're going to get asked, and so this seems like an appropriate time just to say, we're going to need to see what gets reduced for that. We did last year too. We do it every year because we have to know.
That's gonna be 5 million, well, it's
Right.
gonna be $1 million, yeah, it's gonna cost, yeah.
About 6.5, I estimate. $6.5 million, yeah. And then you have to make decisions, right? How much fund balance are you comfortable with? Are you comfortable with what cuts, et cetera?
Yep, absolutely.
But it's a lot of work on your guys' half, so I just want to make sure we have that on the agenda.
Okay. Everyone around the table is used to my, you're familiar with this, aren't you, my graph? Huh?
Seems it's been
Okay.
adjusted for those who are colorblind as well.
Wait, this is the next one. This is with increasing our, in fact, let's go back to that page. You can see where I got this. Okay, 109. You see the 18.5 million in your book there? You see that blue line? That is our debt service budget line item. So that 18.9 is what we're gonna budget till the end. That line signifies we don't need a tax increase as long as we don't have to raise taxes, raise above that line. This is our projected debt service to finish the middle schools, Wrightstown, and Rolling Hills. We still have about $9.5 million to borrow for that based on the projections. Those projections could change as the middle schools get completed, and that could be reduced, that we don't really need 9.5, because I think that's the maximum that I thought we would need. So, if you look in this year ending June 30, 2019, if you go to page 108, you see where, if you see on 108, you see the schedule of debt service, you see that's at $18.9 million. You see that? But we only have $18.6 million. So for this year only, we're going to need to use $356,000 of fund balance because our debt service is higher than our budget. You understand that? We've talked about this before. We used $56,000 one year of fund balance. Okay? That's with the $600,000 in there. And as you see, our debt service is up here. It drops off and then it stays level for a while, and it drops farther off, and we're in good shape. Now, let's say we can't find the reductions in other areas of the budget to get us down where we're comfortable levels of fund balance. Now let's look at it. It's a different color. And you'll see the blue.
And Mike's not here to enjoy it.
The blue is $600,000 less. It is actually, if you look at the 2017-18 budget, you see it's 17.9 million. That's where it is now because we didn't increase it. Now you're going to see a longer period of time that we're using fund balance because our debt service is above our budget. Now we're going to be using fund balance through 2024 and using about $2.7 million of fund balance. I tell you that it's an appropriate use of fund balance. It's a one-time thing. Once we get through 2024, it doesn't occur anymore, so it's a one-time expenditure of fund balance. It is appropriate to use fund balance that way, but it is a use of fund balance. I am telling you that those are the reasons why I'm concerned that the easy way is just to take the $600,000 out of debt service. I mean, we can start borrowing again here, and there's money's there, but we're gonna wait a while, because if you think we're gonna start borrowing for the other elementary schools, that's just gonna add or use the fund balance on, and I'm concerned.
That's what I was sitting here thinking, was the blue represents the available funds to do the work that you just mentioned.
Yes,
And so the longer we take to pay down the middle school projects, et cetera,
yes.
the more difficulty we have with the other work.
Let's go back to the previous one. That $600,000 means a lot. I would like it to be $1 million, because then we're in good shape to be able to borrow the money that's needed for Soul Limestone. What are the names of the renovations that we have? Hillcrest, Richboro Well. There's three there.
Newtown.
On Newtown, that's four. That is why I am concerned. Does everyone understand what I'm trying to do here and why we're trying to do it? Do you agree with it or disagree with it? You see why? Okay. What a nice one. Now I'm just going over this again. You know, in 11, 12, 16, 17, a $14.2 million deficit, $14 million deficit, reduction in staff. We've had reduction in staff of over 105, and we haven't had a lot of those positions. Plus, our market, if you remember, we took staff away from there to save $468,000 off there. We have been reducing our levels of staff and our services within the district over the last 6 years. And I just want to say that we need to start getting funds available to be able to get us on the right track again. Okay. This is our budget calendar. As you will see, April 5th, updated preliminary budget and staffing is going to be discussed. Tentative budget forum prior to the board meeting, and then we would vote on the preliminary budget on April 19th. Again, final adoption, we're talking about May 17th. Doesn't have to be May 17th, but June's meeting is later, and getting the tax bills out on time is complicated if we're going to wait till late June. But if that's the board's direction, we will do that, depending on where we are with this and where the comfort is with the board. Okay. Any comments or anything on that? I just have two quick things now. Okay. Change in the timekeeping system vendor, Jerry, we're going to work on all of that. Projector and all bid.
What's the total bottom line on it?
It's $14,000, $15,000. Okay, well then I'm holding it there.
It's your call. You're the.
No, we're good with that. Yep.
It's.
And then the North Prom contracts at the Crystal Tea Room, and these are the dates of them, in the same contract that we've signed ever since I've been here. Is everyone okay with that? I'll have Rob review them, but this is really what we've done before this changes.
We're selling. Why are we doing them separately?
Because they negotiate with Crystal Ball.
They normally do, right? I mean, that's.
Right.
They go to the Constitution Center.
Right, okay.
Any other questions?
Okay, take board comments, questions. Okay. I'd like to take public comment on finance committee topics, and then we'll take public comment on other topics. But I would like to, Mr. Reinhardt's been here since 7 a.m. this morning, so if there's comments on anything on finance,
Just
committee.
a question, the
Go ahead,
2.4%,
Nancy.
what does that represent in millions of dollars? The increase,
Altogether, but it has to do with the, you want just the line item, right? It's $4.8 million, but that includes,
so the budget's gonna go up 4.8 million.
yes, but that also includes the assessed values that have gone up 0.8%. Nancy, it's in this book, it'll be posted online tomorrow, you'll see the calculation and everything.
Okay.
And the presentation tonight, I'll
I
have.
don't know what the value of the mill is, so I
The
want
value of
to
the mill
know.
is in this book.
Do you want to see this, Nancy?
It's $1,251,000.
What was it?
$1,251,000 a mill.
Okay. So how much are you gonna get from, how much are you gonna get from the increase of real estate taxes? And how much are you gonna get from debt service to fund the balance at this point?
Right now, the tax increase is $4.8 million. And a portion of that, again, is the assessed value went up, so we didn't have to raise taxes to get about 1.2 of that. I just want to make sure you don't.
So we didn't fund the different checks. So there's a $5 million deficit right now, and we don't know how we're funding that. So
Okay.
this is just the first presentation. So we have to find $5 million, either take it out of fund balance or make cuts in the budget as we refine it. So it's unfunded currently.
So if there's rumors around the district that there's gonna be cuts to the music program, we don't know if that's true or not.
Well, then the rumors are.
You've been through this for
ahead
years
of
with us, Nancy. This is the first.
our- Rumors are ahead of our seeing anything,
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
they are rumors.
All right.
so that's what I asked Dr. Frazier, come back and say, if we had to balance this budget today, as it is, that's $5 million we need to cut, and if we had to balance it with no tax increase, what does that mean to our programs? So that's what will get presented over the next, maybe in April, but it might take 2 months, which means we might have a little bit of a delay, but we'll see.
So people shouldn't get crazy yet.
No, the next 2 meetings, though, if they're concerned, that would be important for them to come to.
I'd like to make a comment about the student prom. Sure, I never thought I'd have an opportunity to say this in my name's orientation, but now that's the one of my chocolate, the last one, but I always thought we watered down the senior prom by making the junior prom so big and wonderful. I always wished the way they'd have something to look forward to for senior year. The expense for kids and all, like we're going through that now, all this for junior prom. What's going to be different for her for next year? Just be something to consider, whether you could ever do it in school or as a less expensive venue. And I think in a lot of ways we steal from our kids by giving them too much. So that's my 2 cents.
Just technically, we don't run it or pay for it, just so you know.
Okay.
We, in all fairness, the kids do it at the high school level. And Jerry is going to talk because he talks on this topic every year for 9 years that I've been on the board.
I have said it is an expense that our students incur. To be a senior in the school district is massively expensive, between all the proms and the trips and the books and the Disney and it's massively expensive. And I have wondered about scaling that back to something which is more, I hate to say on It's a Wonderful Life, that was done in the high school gym. But there's something historic about doing it that way. But I lose, so that goes on with that.
We front the money and then the kids pay for it, so that's kind of our impact on it, but fair enough. Anybody else to comment on finance?
Wendy, what is the projection for enrollment for elementary over the next 5-10 years for elementary, middle, and high school?
As soon as we get our second demographer and they give us those numbers, we'll let you know.
You don't know.
Well, we had a demographer who gave us numbers and we've chosen to put out to bid for a second demographer.
If we don't know enrollment, how can you know staffing numbers?
Well, we're just doing 1 year. We're just doing 1 year's budget. We're not doing 5 years out. So relatively speaking, we have to use the numbers we have now, which are relatively stagnant with maybe a small increase or a small decrease.
So if you're talking about, working about financing the debt in 2024, I mean, if our numbers are gonna drop, then we're gonna lose in elementary. And if more people are over at the technical school, then there should be less at the regular high school. The only goes up over at the tech, then that has to go down at the high school.
Absolutely, and as those numbers go down, that happens, but for right now, we're almost status quo, so decreasing it for next year, we still have to serve almost the same amount of kids we've served this year. So until we actually see that, we saw an increase this year by 35 kids, I don't remember what it was. So,
District-wide or just high school?
no, district-wide.
Wait, just
Elementary
elementary.
school, elementary school, I'm sorry, elementary school,
Yes.
elementary school, yeah,
It is.
K to 6. So, all right, I know there's a lot of people here who want to comment on things other than finance, but I just want to make sure, finance?
Like, district is like $4,000.
Lose?
Yeah, okay, historical kind of thing.
So it's in millions, so we have a $4 million deficit. So the amount of money we took in was $4 million less than the amount of money we had to spend to run the district. So we have a savings account, and we use the money out of the savings account. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, sure, good question. Okay, all right, I'm gonna close finance public comment. We are gonna have a 30-minute public comment session in the middle so that you guys don't have to stay for facilities unless you want to, you're more than welcome to. And then, where's Mr. Tate? Mr. Tate's gonna run, facilities because Dr. Thorward is not here. Okay, so, we're gonna try to do this so we get everybody in turn. We'll do 3 minutes. You know, if we don't get through this, whatever, we'll do facilities because we have Doug Tiller's probably also been here since 7 a.m. And we'll take public comment again at the end of facilities. Okay? So, okay. How about this? I'm gonna pass the sheet around. If you want to speak, you sign up.
Can we take a 3-minute break?
Yeah, we'll take a 3-minute break and we'll have a sign up sheet. How's that? Let me use this. Okay, let me use an agenda. Yeah.
Want to use my facility? What is my second page?
Oh, perfect. Might come up on the, something, you know, I'm saying. You're good.
How are you?
I'm right. I'm gonna listen to public comment. And then we can open So, you can actually, ironically, write your work. It's all in sales.
How did you know this guy? Really? That's interesting.
His birthday was yesterday, and his daughter's wedding. So this is, I'm not making anything about me, please don't celebrate it. It is mine. We went to dinner last night celebrating with his daughter, his ex-wife. They have a lovely relationship.
And he sat down to ask you that. That's rough.
Yeah, this.
So, how's the daughter doing?
I don't think it's, she was his primary caretaker. And it traveled to the Queen and it was not.
Oh, no, I've had it
Yes.
My friend remaining. Friends were weekend away. 3 years later, they moved for jobs day to day. And we resumed their friendship.
What? The lights. I'm sure. Is it just a switch? Should be.
I was afraid they were not gonna. So.
Yeah. I don't know. I like to think there's some sort of comfort.
I think people choose. I like to people choose.
Yeah. No, that's rough. Are you girl?
Girls are good until last week. Everybody is not that. Good safety. No, yeah. I'm sure you've already, my daughter's going with friends. I don't put just after I would have been, I just
We're gonna go ahead and start. Okay, so we're gonna start with Adele.
Actually, come up and sit here. The microphone's in the middle.
Is that so the mic? Yeah. Doesn't even know? Are we back on? Matt?
We never stop.
Oh, we never stopped. Okay, so we're being recorded live on YouTube. Just so you know. You can give us your name and your town, and then.
My name's Adela Knuckles. I live in Holland. And on behalf of Council Rock South students, we would just like to share that for the walkout that is scheduled for on Wednesday. It's nothing political or attached to any political statements. It's in support of the students who suffered in Parkland due to the travesties that happened. So for any parents that are worried about it having a political statement, we want to reassure that it's just in support of those students and to show support to other victims who suffered other school shootings as well in the past.
Thank you.
Thank
you very much. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
all right.
You just say your name.
Harrison Cannon, hello. So like Adele was,
Sorry.
No.
Holland.
Good
Yeah,
enough.
I think about it. Okay, so like Adele was saying, this isn't a political statement. It's more to honor those who lost their lives in a tragedy, especially one that it hits close to home because it's obviously not the first tragedy that we've had to deal with, but like as high school students, like it affects us when another high school student, even if we've never met them, like, you know, there's like a generational kinship, I feel like, between us and like everyone in high school right now. And like, we're not forcing anyone to go out. If it's completely up to you. If you want to go out, you can go out. If you don't want to go out, like, that's fine too. We're not gonna like you know, if you don't go out, we're not going to beat you with sticks. We're just going to be like, okay, that's your choice. And we feel like by doing this, we're like upholding the ideals that we've been taught in school by this wonderful district, to like, you know, stand up for yourself, what you believe in, don't be afraid to speak your mind, all that wonderful stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
for coming. Now, did you guys want to wait that? Okay, you can. So I have Vanessa Smith next.
My notes. Since I have 3 minutes.
Just as you tell me.
Oh, I'm Vanessa Smith, and Langhorne is my town. So I'm just going to go through my points as fast as I can because it's quick, but can't guarantee safety for kids even inside. Fights can occur. I know that there are fights all over school since my daughter comes home and tells me about them. I don't feel that you can guarantee safety even though you are saying the kids are not going outside anymore. It's also made out that this won't disrupt the school day, but my youngest is in the preschool program and was canceled partly for safety reasons, but also because the teacher doesn't know how many of her students will stay to teach the preschool kids. Part of my statements were from an email from Mr. Frazier, but he wrote, great educators focus not only on educating the mind, but the heart and soul as well. And I just find this funny because my child is in 10th grade at South, and only one teacher talked about the walkout and how it's about the 17 victims, but also about the want for change in gun laws. And I also asked her about the Second Amendment, and she couldn't really tell me much about the Second Amendment, which I would think schools, that's where she would be taught that. From Mr. Frazier, it said, additionally, a fundamental responsibility of a public education is to instill in students a sense of civic and social responsibilities. It is not the responsibility to instill by a public school, but it is the responsibility to teach, as in teaching the laws and history, but not to instill your opinions on the subject. Students are to learn the facts and come up with their own thoughts on this subject. The school supporting, and I'm still saying supporting, this walkout is showing on the side in which the school stands, how do you think the kids who don't support this feel? And their whole school is supporting something they do not. And I understand that you try to change wording, but the damage was already done with the first email. Students have said, I know the students behind me didn't say this, but students have said that not doing the walkout is showing disrespect to the kids that were killed, and bullying might occur. If you allow a walkout for this, you need to allow it for other things, such as if my daughter wanted to do a walkout for the 3,000 babies who die every day, or support a walkout for stricter driving laws, and statistically, that kills more teens than anything else. I understand protesting and that it's a right, but not on school time, or you receive the consequences that will happen in the real world. You are teaching our children that if they don't like something, they can get away with whatever they want, but in the adult life, that's not how it works. I'm guessing that was my time, but so you're saying walkout. If you look up the definition of walkout, it is strike, the action of leaving an organization as an expression of disapproval. It is a protest. That is the definition. You can't change the definition. So how is that honoring 17 victims if it's a walkout? You want to change it to something else, then I would say, yeah, you're honoring 17 victims, but the definition of walkout does not support what you're standing for. Since I'm trying to make this shorter because I know. What will happen to the students who do bring politics into it? And what will happen to the students, which is all over social media, who walk outside because they obviously don't respect the authority of staying inside the school, because it's all over social media that they will be walking outside, not to follow the staying in school. My next question is, what was done for the 3 boys from Council Rock that passed?
It was 3 minutes. If you're taking
You
away
can
from other
say that
people's
if you want,
time.
we'll be here, but.
That's 5 minutes.
Hey, you should finish that. See, it's not, no, but 3 minutes is not the rule.
Yes, it was the rule. She said it was.
What, I'm sorry, what rule is that? Because that's not correct.
Actually, under the sunshine law, we can dictate how much time. Yes, that's reasonable.
I have no problem staying and finishing later, that's fine. But if you do one thing for actual students that pass away from this school, it should be the same thing. So if you want to honor the 17 victims that we have no ties or connects to this community, that's fine. Do the same thing you did for the 3 students that were from this community.
Katie, Gannon.
Katie Gannon from Churchville. So I have a kindergartner right now who is learning the basics of school, learning to sit, learning to listen, learning to follow directions. I have a 7th grader now who they're telling, you don't have to sit, you don't have to listen, you don't have to follow the directions, because you can get up and walk right out of school. Or, I'm sorry, she's in middle school. You can stay inside of school. But I feel like it's really hard to raise a child these days with all the social media, half of which I don't understand if you're really old. But I feel like this generation's coming up as entitled, disrespectful, and anti-authoritarian, and I feel like this is just feeding into that. My daughter, 2nd week of school, 7th grade, just learning how to figure out how to go from class to class, was 15 seconds late to class, got a detention, cried her eyes out. Yet these kids can get up, stand up, walk out of class, and not have any repercussions, and possibly walk out of the school, and it's still to be determined whether or not they will be punished or, anything like that. If they turn it into something political, no one has said anything other than it's still to be determined. I understand how something happens like this. It's a tragedy. People feel powerless. I'm sure we all do too. We want to do something. If this was truly about the 17 victims, there's so many things that can be done. Can have a fundraiser for them, write letters, write cards. My daughter and I tonight and tomorrow night, we're going making ribbons, burgundy and silver, because that's the color of the school, so she can wear them to school on Wednesday. She will not be participating, but she's going to wear them to school, hand them out to her classmates. There's so much other things we can do. Have a moment of silence in the morning, other than disrupting the school day for everybody and setting a bad precedence for future things that could possibly happen. And last thought is, it just absolutely breaks my heart how divisive this is making everybody. I look at my daughter's Instagram account and I see, oh, you don't respect them if you don't choose not to do this, walk out, and it's pitting kids against kids, parent against parents. And then I look at my 5-year-old who has no care in the world, and she's just friends with everybody, and it just breaks my heart that this is coming to this, and this just could have been avoided if people talked, and maybe we had an assembly to remember these children and all the victims of the school shootings, not just these. Of course these are the most recent, but it just really breaks my heart, and I'm sorry that's my time, right? Perfect, did well.
Michelle?
I have to state once again, I'm here as a parent of 2 children in the Council Rock School District, as a mother of a 6th grader and an 8th grader, and as a citizen of Northampton Township. And all the views and everything I'm about to express are mine and my own. From the moment I received the email from Dr. Frazier, I responded, and I asked for input from every single one of the board members. I received a few. Mr. Grubb, which was absurd, what he sent back to me. Mr. Block, which was very basic. Mr. Thorwart, who was
actually very much against what is going on, and I didn't hear from anyone else. And I will assume everyone here at this table, since you are here today, you condone this and you support what is going on in this walkout because you have the opportunity to not be a Monday night quarterback or Monday morning or whatever the heck you are. You have the chance today to say how you feel. You're not saying anything. I didn't hear back from you. I don't know if other people have heard back from you. I don't know how you feel. I do know that you're allowing the administration to do this to these kids. These kids are divided. My 8th grader comes home every day telling me how there's this group and that group, and these kids are doing this and these are doing that. Didn't you spend like $30,000 on a kindness ninja to come in and teach everybody how to be kind to each other? Well, you're causing a really big divide in the school. You're doing it. Once again, I feel like I just had the same thing to talk about redistricting. You're causing angst in the school. You're causing kids to be able to bully other kids. I thought that's what we talk about here, right? We're always talking about bullying. That's all we ever talk about in council. Well, you guys are causing it. You're allowing Dr. Frazier and this administration to do this. This is political. You made it political. The email that was sent out clarifying what a walkout means, even if it's not a walkout outside, it's still a walkout. You're disrupting the class. It is a walkout, and it was sponsored originally, which it still is sponsored, by the Women's March. The Women's March, who I believe was formed to protest the inauguration of our president, who is currently now our president, who on their website states Council Rock is part of this. On their website, they define what the Women's March is about and why they're doing this walkout. Do you know that they're against law enforcement? Do you want our kids to walk out against law enforcement? That's what they're doing. They don't even know it. My 6th grader wanted to walk out because he wanted to get out of class. They don't understand. You have done this to them. The teachers aren't explaining it, and I don't want them to explain it. Teach them. I think I said it in the redistricting comments. Teach them to read and write. Don't worry about their feelings. I'm going to worry about their feelings. I am their parent. I will teach them. And now you've set a terrible precedent, and I don't know who else said it, but now we have to have walkouts and marches for everything, don't we? So now we have pro-life groups. If we have any other group, what about the military? Can we walk out, support the military? Can we support the police? I just really hope you guys reconsider or at least do something today. Speak out. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 board members here. Comment on it. I'm sorry, 6. I apologize.
That's all right.
It's just really important, I think, for the community to know where you stand. And silence is an answer. Silence is your statement. So make a statement unless you want silence to be that statement for you, because you condone it if you are silent. Thank you.
Just to be clear, there are 7 board members.
7.
There is. I'm sorry, 7 board members?
Dr. Bluff. Mr. Bluff just.
Mr. Bluff, a doctor.
Sorry.
Mr. Brobeck.
Sorry. Thinking Dr.
Mr. Tate.
But that's fine.
Either way, let's
There are 7 board members here, and I only heard from 1, 2, 3, and Mr. Norwood's not here. So then that's many board members that did not respond. That were silent.
Maureen Hickey.
Do I have to send that to?
It's better for the mic.
If we can't do.
Well, first of all, I think you'll be able to hear me, but I haven't actually looked at you guys and speak to you first. I can understand your feelings, your age and my age.
Actually, at these meetings, you have to speak to the board. Please don't speak to, we discourage at our meetings about people talking to one another at the board. If you'd like to speak from outside, fine, but when we have board meetings, if you speak to individuals, that tends to get into disputes among the community.
Talk to them. It's not like.
Okay, so you just pretend I'm looking at you guys, because I just want to ask you.
So where's the mic? This
Right, you're right here. If you speak at the table.
Okay. I wasn't going to mention this, but so you guys know, I know what it's like to receive a phone call when a child's in lockdown and the perpetrator is on the loose, because my daughter was a Virginia Tech student at that time. And I spent a lot of time up there through the healing process. And it's tough, it's hard, you get through it. And how you feel today, kids, isn't how you're going to feel when you're a parent, because that's part of the journey. Things change. And when I received that email from you, Dr. Frazier, I knew I had to, wow, what's this all about? Because the campus at Virginia Tech, I couldn't even imagine. I knew what the grief felt like there, so I couldn't imagine any activism from that, okay? So as any parent would do, I looked at where this was coming from. And the thing that stood out to me was anti-police, and I thought, oh my gosh, this can't be. And I guess for me, I'm here to try and understand. I don't think these kids understand that. They're being told, I would probably walk out with them as well if I was being fed that information. And for anybody here who says it's not political, it's so disingenuous to say that. You have to pick up any newspaper, and there's your answer, any newspaper. But I just want to know, and I want to understand the root of this. Did this come from just administration made this decision on their own? I've asked the question in emails and not gotten answers. Did children come to you? Did students come to you? I think as a parent, I have that right to know, because a lot can be born from this, and a lot can be learned from this. But if we don't know the roots and we don't know the origin, I don't know where to begin or how to have a conversation with my daughter after. So I feel like there's so many blanks not being filled in. But I'm here because something doesn't feel right on my person. I followed my gut my whole life, and I cannot wait till March 15th, because this has been so ugly in our community, and there's just you can say what you want, but it's the truth. And I don't go around looking for ugly anywhere, and it's there, and I know what it feels like to receive, like I said, that phone call, and I'm shocked at where we are as a community with this. Am I going to get an answer, Dr. Frazier? Like, can you tell me?
Yeah. That
would be awesome.
Yeah, so I've received several, dozens and dozens, I never counted them, but several emails from both parents, community members, and a couple of students, maybe 3 or 4 from students, asking and encouraging us to approve the walkout, to accommodate students who wanted to participate in the walkout. And some of the language differed between exactly what they were saying at that time, but to an email, they were all asking for that to happen. So
in person, doctor, or do they come to you in person, or do they come to you through email?
These were all emails. Yeah.
And then you just said yes without doing an investigation into what they were actually asking?
No, not at all. Not at all. So we, a lot of these, they come in on a Wednesday, a lot more came in on a Thursday. In between that Thursday morning, we always have a cabinet meeting on Thursday morning. That's my team, with Mr. Taylor and the rest of the cabinet team. So that's where we really discussed it in depth. And then the next morning, a couple of things happened. One is that I had sent an email to the school board, letting them know about our cabinet discussion and where the thinking was at that point. And then that same Friday morning, there was a county superintendent's meeting. So not all, but most superintendents from around Bucks County were there just to share thinking and thoughts and where everybody at, talk about the roads, talk about the ponds, safeguards, et cetera. And where we were at that point obviously evolved over time. So that's why the second communication was a little bit different than the first communication. But
do you regret any of this? Is there any backpedaling going on in this administration now?
No.
Do you think that there's a thought out there that these children in our school actually think that the walk is being promoted by the victims, their families, and the loved ones that remain behind? I think the students think that's exactly what's happening, and it's a shame because it's not really what is happening.
Well, as I've said from the start,
the walk's been planned long before Florida even happened. I don't know if everybody's really aware, but it is true. And I just guess, are you a little bit worried about, somebody mentioned the precedent being set? Like if the pro-lit group does one?
I'm not. I actually don't understand the logic of that argument.
And that is why.
And that's because when you talk about school safety, that is directly relevant to our students' lives. When you talk about abortion, when you talk about teen driving, everything, that's not directly relevant to our students' school lives. So when you put these two things on a scale, just one of them is absolutely directly pertinent, directly relevant, and these other ones that I've heard about aren't at all. So I just don't understand.
I differ, but it's life. So, but how's Mike Clark, Police Chief Clark, is he okay with the anti-police sentiment and the fact that our school's supporting this? Because I know I have loved ones. My next door neighbor's husband was murdered at 26 years old, and it's something we talk about, and it's definitely created a ripple. Has Mike Clark had anything to say about it?
We have not talked about that specific. Nor is that.
Thank you very much, because I think I probably went over, Jerry. I know you told me that before.
Sharon? Sorry, if you want to go to the order, that's okay.
Sharon Bell, Churchville. I just want to say this is an opportunity to do a life lesson for the students. You have the right to protest, yes, there has to be ramifications. How you don't relate abortion and this together. This is a political movement. It's sponsored by the Women's March. If you're saying you just want to honor the people, then do it Thursday. Do it Friday. Don't do it Wednesday. If it's not political, if the NRA was sponsoring it, I'm sure we'd hear a lot more backlash. Right? If they were running something the same day, do it a different day. If you're honoring the students, then do it. I don't understand why we're not having a candlelight vigil. That's usually standard procedure. Why are you walking out? You know, and like I said, someone said they have the First Amendment rights. I agree with that, fine. Whoever walks out, it says you leave the school without permission. You're doing so at your own discretion. You are not the school's responsibility. You come back, you're going to be suspended. Period. It's very simple. There has to be, the kids have to learn there's ramifications for your beliefs. If this is something you truly believe in, do it, but there are consequences. It's right in the handbook. It's cut and dry. Right? There's no exceptions. When I had my husband had back surgery, my daughter was a sophomore. I had this over at South with the principal there who is still there. I asked for her to get a parking permit. Couldn't do it. I said, hey, let's open up that handbook. It's not here. You can do it. You know, I had to come over to Mr. Klein, the superintendent, and get him involved. You know, now they added it to the handbook. If you're a sophomore, you can't drive. You have to be a junior or a senior. This is in the handbook. You have to follow the handbook. If we're making exceptions to the rule, then we have to do it for a lot of other things. You know, and a lot of us definitely feel that this is a political movement because it's sponsored again by the Women's March. Do it Thursday or Friday. I'm sure a lot of us probably wouldn't have an objection. You know, if this is about safety, you're having the kids go outside, where's the safety? And I just like to hear from the board members who are here now to disclose, are you for it or are you not? Let us know, because we get the vote too come, you know, election time. We want to know where you stand. You're for it? Speak up, because there's ramifications for you too. Teach the kids now. Thank you.
Renee?
Renee Kilgariff, Richborough. I also emailed Dr. Frazier shortly after I got the email, and I got response from Dr. Frazier. Ms. Thomas did respond. Dr. Thorwart responded, and that was it. Haven't heard from anybody else. And I understand what the student council representatives say, that it's to honor the victims, but front page of the Bucks County Courier-Times today, there was a sophomore that was interviewed and said a couple days ago, the superintendent sent out an email that said there will be designated areas inside the school where the students can walk to, but the students do not agree and will be outside the school. So my first question is, what's going to happen when the students go outside of the school? Because our biggest concern about this walk was the safety of the kids, because it was advertised as being out, it was outside, and the police weren't notified until we went to the Board of Supervisors meeting and made them aware of it. And then Mr. Weinstein talked to the police and had a conference with Dr. Frazier. So the Board of Supervisors and the police weren't aware of it until the parents did something about it. And so then that fear was allayed by making it inside. Now the kids are saying, we're going to disregard what you say and we're going outside anyway. What's going to be done for their safety, number one, and number two, for the consequence. You specifically said, we're doing something else. It's going to be inside. We will let you honor them and let you do something inside. And they're saying that's not good enough. We're going outside. It was the front page of the paper today. And she also said, I'm hoping that all the high schools participating in the walkout will send a message to Washington for stricter gun laws. I didn't hear anything about honoring the victims in that statement. I heard we're sending a message to Washington, and it's a political message. So I respect what the students here said, but there's certainly political undertones to this walkout. And I don't know if you want to comment or anybody, I'm fine with just my statement.
Hi, I'm Liz Yaus from Churchville. I have a few things I'd like to talk about, but I know I only have 3 minutes. I completely believe that the students, our students, want this to be about honoring the lost lives of the Florida kids. But from the very beginning, this has been connected with this Women's March. And it's funny because I mentioned this Mr. Frazier's, or Dr. Frazier, I'm sorry, Dr. Frazier's email to my son who's a senior, and I said, you know, do you know anything about this? And he said immediately right away, he could tell that this really was not the march, the organized march on March 14th at 10 a.m. was not just about the Florida kids. I'd like to read what the Women's March website says, and it's under their frequently asked questions. It says, we are walking out for all people who have experienced gun violence, including systemic forms of gun violence that disproportionately impact teens in Black and brown communities. It is important that we refer to gun violence. We do not overlook the impact of police brutality and militarized policing or see police in schools as a solution. We also recognize the United States has exported gun violence through imperialistic foreign policy to destabilize other nations. We raise our voices for action against all these forms of gun violence. If this truly is to honor the kids, then I don't see why it has to be done on March the 14th at 10 a.m. because that is condoning what they are doing, and that is stating that that is what our kids are wanting it to be, and I don't believe that that's what our kids want it to be. Okay.
Andre?
Okay. Okay. My name is Simon Singh. I'm from Holland. I'm senior class vice president at Council Rock South. I have my secretary with me. I do agree that senior year is pretty expensive, but we'll touch base on that later. So I'd like to cover a couple points mentioned by the parents, and I respect your opinion. I appreciate you being here. Firstly, with the police brutality, I do not tend to agree with that because it's actually us that are planning the walkout. So the lady that asked Mr. Frazier if she had people in person, myself and the senior class president actually went to Mr. Funk and we discussed and we asked about what's going to happen. And we put a plan in place. And for our safety, we're in contact with North End and Township Police to have the entrances to the high school block so nobody can come in. Teachers on third period prep will be outside blocking students from leaving the premise. And to the parent that said it's in the handbook, I believe in the handbook it states that if you leave school premise, we're not leaving school premise. It is a walkout outside the building onto school property, actually in the parking lot by the flagpole. We're having a trumpet. We're having someone from the Council Rock Band play the national anthem on the trumpet. A chime will be rung every minute or 17 minutes in honor of the 17 victims that were lost. Furthermore, this is not disrupting class because students who wish to stay in class will continue their studies and teachers will remain. And teachers have been told not to take a stand on this. And I believe Mr. Fraser said that in his email as well. And for the parent that said bullying may be a problem, I can see where that point of view comes in, and I may agree with that, but bullying can also occur for the other side, because we are taking, those who choose to participate in the walkout are taking a stand in what they believe in, and they may get repercussions for that, just as well as the other side may. So I feel that's a wash there. It's not, like I said, not against law enforcement. We did meet with Mr. Funk, and to the lady that said if the NRA had this, I believe if the NRA had this walkout and supported this walkout, it would be the same reaction to that. I do not believe it would be anything different. And constitutionally speaking, this public school district is a part of the government, and constitutionally speaking, they cannot deny us the right to walk out. And I know, Mr. Frazier, you yourself and the board have met with your district attorney and spoken about this. And school safety is a big concern. I agree with you on this, and I agree with the board members on this idea. That's why we're taking extremely high measures. Furthermore, teachers in the parking lot, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the South parking plan. The top parking lot, we have a flagpole. That'll be a, may I continue, or do you want me to stop? The flagpole, I apologize. The flagpole is going to be a half mast in honor of victims, and the teachers' cars, furthermore, will be at the entrances. So not only will we have a massive amount of police presence there, massive amounts, every entrance will be blocked. There will be massive amounts of police presence. Teachers' cars will be blocking. Students who do leave the school premise will be suspended for 3 days.
But you said it inside.
No, don't.
He's talking about it being outside.
There will be areas for students who are concerned for their safety to be inside. Furthermore, we have decided that these areas will be the auditorium and the cafeteria, and furthermore, there will be chaperone teachers there for their student safety. That's all I have to say. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I don't have a question to you, thank you.
Yes.
You did well, that's fine. I don't have a question to you, I have another question about the. So are we still staying inside? I'm confused about what I'm hearing.
The plan is to stay inside. That has not changed from the school district.
I'm concerned about hearing teachers blocking traffic and so that's okay. Do we know, do we ever determine what consequences there'll be for kids who walk outside?
We're in the midst of having those conversations.
Right now. Will it be different than what it normally would be?
I don't know yet.
Do you know when we'll know?
Sorry?
Do you know when we'll know?
Probably tomorrow. Not sure.
In the handbook, it says if students leave the school premise.
Your best bet is let people talk to the board. This was a board member asking a question.
All right. Thank you, appreciate it.
You just speak it on the table. You don't need to.
You're right.
Michael Smedley, Senior Class Secretary, Council Rock High School South. I live in Ivy Line, Pennsylvania. As far as our position, I think Syed covered everything, and where I want to clarify a couple of things is, this is the United States, and this is a perfect example that the school board is giving us, that in our social studies classes, we're taught to make our own decisions, get involved, stand up what we believe in, because America is a democracy, and that we won't have ramifications for voicing our own beliefs. So I think it's an amazing opportunity that the board is giving us to voice our own opinion and make our own decisions as informed members of society, that they're not forcing us to get up, and they're not saying that this punishment will happen if you get up. In the classrooms, there has been no political discussion. It's been teachers just saying, this is what the school board has laid out. This is what's going to take place. If kids want to remain in class, they're allowed to remain in class, and studies are going to continue. It's not a disruption of the school day. It's simply just giving us the option to get involved and voice our opinions as young adults and the next generation that's going to be leading this country. And I'm extremely thankful that we've been in touch with the Northampton Police to guarantee student safety throughout that event. Thank you.
Any other comments by the board members?
Wait, there's one more comment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't do anyone else.
My name is Kelly Drucker. I'm just concerned for my children because I believe that everyone has the right to feel the way they want to. My issue is I don't think it's being handled the right way, or maybe there should be other ways that they could, because telling a child that they can walk out or walk off or get away from it, when you have a job, you don't just walk off. No matter what you're doing, you'll be fired. It's just facts. I just don't want to try to work with the school, instilling good values in my child, and then you saying, okay, well, do what you want to do. It's your choice. Well, they will get bullied if they don't, and they will get bullied if they do. So why are we even allowing this walk to go in a political realm with it? Definitely it is. I respect kids' values, opinions, and everything. So this is just how I feel, and I would absolutely want them to show caring and everything else. Do it on a different day, a day that shows that it isn't for political, it is for these kids. We're gonna help, we're fundraising, we're doing that. And my final thing is what do you feel with what these kids said? Do you really think, with all the other things going on, I mean, what is your opinion on their feelings and what they were saying tonight? That has absolutely nothing to do with political aspects, or maybe they're just taking one little piece and going with it, but it spreads out to more than just that view. Unfortunately, the way kids don't see everything, that's why they, till 24, their brains aren't even fully developed, which is what we're here to help them do. Can you please tell me what your opinion and feelings are towards what they said? Anyone?
I have faith in our kids,
Oh,
and I know that you do too. I think our world is divisive right now. I think it is not just happening within our schools. I think this issue has been within our schools we've been wrestling with this going back 18 months. I do support our kids in this. I support all kids having whatever voice they have. If it is determined that there are repercussions and ramifications, I don't think that legally we can, unless, and I could be wrong, I don't know what's behind it, but we did receive a communication, a Howard Edelman communication that said legally we are not within our rights to impose sanctions upon kids who choose to disobey what the administration's directive is, which is to stay in, or anything other than what is standard. Whatever a cut would be, I don't know, are you aware of that? Am I quoting that properly? Whatever a cut would be, or if they leave the premises, it's one thing, certainly. If they are missing a class, it is whatever those ramifications are, but I don't believe legally we are permitted to impose any additional
I'm not asking for
repercussions.
additional, but like if you were in a job, you leave.
Yes,
You
of
would be
course.
fired.
I
Kids leave class.
Yes.
They, undirected, they should get the detention, suspension, whatever it is.
Whatever that is.
Right. I don't know, anyone?
Mrs. Thomas, are we still under public comment? Is it appropriate for us to respond at this time?
The last person in public comment, it's, right, everybody that speak, sorry, spoke. So I think we were just gonna wrap up with any board comment that there was.
I just want to take a minute to echo what Mrs. McNessy said. Recognizing the concerns that parents have for their children, most certainly. But I really do respect the right of students who want to give voice to their concerns, who want to participate in March 14th. I really support and defend what they're trying to do there.
And for me, a couple of things. We are, as a public school district, I've said this before, I've said it publicly, we have certain obligations around permitting free speech. It is interesting, if you look it up online, you're invited to look up the commentary around the topic of a limited public forum, which is where we may be able to control the venue that the speech is given in, but we do need to afford a certain opportunity for members of the forum that we control an opportunity to address or to be heard. The other thing I wanted to talk about was I've heard over the past 2 weeks about, well, so-and-so says this, so that must mean that for this group. Without giving attribution, I had had correspondence with someone in the community who had a very decided view on their perspective on this. And upon my asking them a clarifying question, that person went back, wrote a follow-on letter to the board, and then went to Facebook, put my name, and told me what anatomical act I could prepare with for myself, and posted that on Facebook. I want to let you all know, that's that person's action. That doesn't reflect on the rest of you, because that's how it works. Because each person is responsible for themselves. And I'm given a great deal of solace tonight, or comfort, should I say. You know, we spoke the other night, we spoke on Monday night, we had an interchange. And someone had said, well, these students that you put so much stock in. And I had taken some exception. It was just me. It's not these students. Our students have historically done very well. I didn't ask for the 4 students to show up tonight. And I'm thrilled they did. Because that's why, for me, I put so much stock in what our students do. Now, the planning that's going on, I think that some of that, there's still refinements going on with that, I'm sure, because there's still refinements from the administration. We heard the interchange with Dr. Frazier about refining some things there. So I put a lot of stock in what our students have done, their rights to do it, and they're being responsible about it. On a personal basis, you know, the topics that were brought up, anybody who follows this board knows that I've already had issues about gun control in schools and, you know, about the person's right to have a weapon or to possess a firearm appropriately. So if we get judged by that, if I thought that this was going the other way, absolutely, that would be antithetical to what my position has been. But you know what? As a governmental agency, as one of the governmental agencies, I don't have that right to impose my perspective on a certain topic upon the citizens and the residents of the community or the students in our school district. So do I support them? I won't say whether I support them or not. Do I support their right to have the conversation and to have the walkout? Me, one guy.
I met with Police Chief Clark myself. He didn't say anything about being an anti-police. He didn't express any of those concerns to me. So very frankly, tonight, those concerns are notes I've taken. But he didn't talk to me about that. We talked about student safety. And for me, that was part of what moved it to be an inside event. I do believe there are consequences. If the kids break the rules, they're going to suffer the consequences. I do, however, want to advise that I think those consequences need to get out tomorrow early. That would be my preference because it's happening Wednesday, and I think the kids should have time to understand consequences of their actions. But you know, so I was very concerned about safety. I'm very concerned that the kids, we heard it tonight, think it's one thing, and the adults think it's another thing. And that's very disconcerting, and it's very difficult to bring those two things together. That's what I'll say. Because if the kids want to honor, I mean, those kids, our kids, they may be kids, but they all saw the videos that we saw with those kids laying on the ground. They saw them. And if they want to have a time to memorialize the school violence we've seen, I mean, our elementary school, Newtown Elementary, had a connection to Sandy Hook because it was Newtown Elementary. So our kids know that this stuff happens. Not to take a statement, pro-gun, anti-gun, it's to remember the students and say something about school safety. The kids I've spoken to, and I took the time to do it, that's what they think about. Now, I also understand what's in the newspaper, what's on the internet, what the adults are talking about, and that is a serious conflict. But, you know, for me right now, the administration has said they're going to have something inside. It will be a memorial for the kids who, if the kids walk out, they should suffer the consequences as they would any other day that they leave and don't have permission.
Just one clarifying, I know it's 17 used the shorthand. It's 14 students and 3 staff members.
That's
right.
I can't comment on what the other speakers said, but my feelings about this are, you know, they've really gone from one end to the other. When I first heard from Dr. Frazier about the students honoring the the 17 victims, I thought, what a nice thing that we can do for the kids who are scared, frustrated, don't know what to do, and it's the way to have a voice. And then the outside influences got involved, and I'll just say the adults got involved and created a mess, right? So on both sides. So now we have a situation where I am concerned about the safety of our kids. I'm concerned that we are a public agency and we can't stop an adult protester coming on our grounds and confronting our kids or confronting other people. I talked also to Chief Clark from Newtown Township and a representative from Newtown Township. I'm sorry, Chief Clark from Northampton Township and Lieutenant from Newtown Township. And they will, I was told emphatically, they will not block roads. They are not going to block Rockaway and stop people from coming on the school grounds. So I think it's very, very important now, because I'm concerned about school safety, that we hold the event inside. And I think it has to be very, very clear, and I don't see what the deliberation is about what any consequences would be, because it should be just like any other day, right? So we should have the kids inside, assembled inside, have your voice deserves to be heard, and it should be, but it should be done safely in a way that we can, we're not trying to control the kids, we're trying to control the outside influences that could potentially come on our grounds and affect these kids in some negative way, right? So I do, Dr. Fraser, I implore you, let's have something tomorrow morning, so one of these students walk out, they know exactly what they're facing. And it's not, no one around this table, I don't think it's clear. And if we can't get direction from board and administration, how are the kids going to know? We only have a day and a half for this to trickle down to every single kid in school. And I think it's important. For my comments.
I could say that any differently. I would say, personally speaking, I am not a fan of having any kind of disruption in school. The reality is, however, that it's going to happen. And based on the fact that it's going to happen, and I have a lot of faith and confidence in our kids. I've seen lots of great things. I think it's incumbent upon us to make it safe and work with them to make sure that that happens. So I agree with what my peers have said. And, for me, moving this to another day, it's not going to change what they're going to do. So we need to establish the rules. And then ensure that those rules are followed, and then be prepared. That's the key bit. Be prepared if those rules aren't followed. So I know you're in contact with your staff and the police, and we need to be prepared for anything. And it's really a shame that the adults have gotten involved. It's a shame.
So I'm not going to repeat what others have said, because I'm in alignment with a lot of the other comments. For me, it's not an issue of what I personally feel or what I would do with my own children as a school director. I have a different kind of lens and a different kind of responsibility. And so I think it's terrific that the district is trying to accommodate the students that want to participate, as well as the students who don't, and that we are following the laws of the land. And I hope we stick to board policy. For me, from the start, I said that in my head that I thought that, we needed to accommodate it to allow the students their First Amendment rights. But I was deeply concerned about the safety. So when it was decided that the students would remain in the building, that gave me a sense of comfort. I'm not comfortable with students leaving the building. And I do believe that there should be consequences for that if that happens. But beyond that, I pretty much agree with, what my board colleagues have said, that this is, something that our kids have a right to do, and we need to create an environment that allows that to happen safely for all students.
I also agree with my board colleagues, and as I stated previously, support the students in their desire to do this. It seems to me this has happened organically from the students. This is their desire. This is their moment to speak. This is their right to express themselves. And while safety is always a concern for us, and we want to make operations as safe as possible for our students, again, I support their willingness to do this. We can put in place as many provisions as we can to ensure safety, to see that education continues on that day. But fundamentally, I support the students. This came from them, and I support them in the desire to do this.
Yeah, I was late, so I'll be real brief. I really admire the young people across the country who decided to draw a line in the sand after what happened in Parkland. And I think it's our duty to support our students' freedom of speech, and I admire what you're doing. My first concern when I heard that there was going to be some sort of walkout here was safety, and I think safety of our students is being addressed very wisely and thoughtfully. And I got a lot of respect for people who run our two high schools, and I'm confident that will be managed well. And as far as the influence of outside groups, I think it's a non-factor. I think it appears to be significant in social media, but in reality, I think our kids are doing what they think is right, and I respect them for it. So I'm supportive of where we're headed. It's a complicated situation, and some of it's regrettable, but in balance, I think it's a good, positive thing, and I'm glad that our kids are taking a stand.
I'm gonna end this meeting, give a 5-minute break, and then we're gonna start facilities.